Last month we went over my wife's list of games for the $100 Sega Genesis challenge. It's now time to talk about mine. Let's get right to it. First up, Kid Chameleon. While I absolutely adore this game, there's one big problem that I've always had with it. That, of course, is the lack of a save feature or password system, which really sucks. Why is that? Well, the game has like 103 levels, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you don't technically play through all those levels, but trying to beat the game in one sitting can be a bit daunting. Thankfully, though, with the use of save states, you don't have to worry about that nowadays. Anyway, I think we can all agree this game is pretty much a Mario ripoff, but I'm not mad about that. The game's defining feature is the multiple helmets you can acquire that give your character unique abilities. We won't talk about them all, but here's a few of my favorites. Red Stealth is a rude, crude, samurai-looking dude. He's fast, he can jump high, and you can whack people in the face with a stick. Yeah, it might be a sword, but it looks like a stick to me. Maniacs is an axe-throwing, hockey mask-wearing individual that no doubt looks like Freddy from the Blair Witch Project. I should really watch more movies. And then there's Juggernaut, the most badass metal video game character of all time. He's a freaking skeleton driving a tank that shoots skulls at your enemies. If that's not metal, I don't know what is. You know he's no doubt blasting some rockin' tunes. Anyway, I gotta talk about the Weevee Deevies. Yeah, I don't know if that's what they actually say, but that's what my friend Matt and I used to always call them. It's kinda what it sounds like they say. I could talk more about this game, but I do have to mention the Japanese artwork. You can clearly see the cultural differences. With that being said, I'd love to see a modern remake of this game. Next up, Road Rash 3. That's right, it's a racing game. I'm not saying this is the best game in the series. Hell, it might not even be the best looking game in the original trilogy, but this is the one I have the most nostalgia for. I used to be decent at this game, but yeah, not anymore. I can't say this series has aged well, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't having a good time revisiting this game for this video. The one thing I do love about this game over the previous two is the amount of weapons you can acquire. If I remember correctly, there's even a cattle prod. Just like Kid Chameleon, I would love to see a modern remake of this game. And no, I'm not counting Road Rage, fuck that game. I think a modern reimagining of this series would do great if it was done right. The one thing I would love is a weapons upgrade or crafting system. I always hated the fact you had to steal a weapon from an opponent. Also, it would have to maintain the silly humor. Some of the skits from these games still crack me up. Like I said, while the games haven't aged well in my opinion, they're still fun to be had. Moving on, we got Quackshot. I don't feel like this game gets the love it deserves. So many people talk about DuckTales on the NES or Castle of Illusion, which may or may not appear on this list as well, but I feel this game is just as good. Donald Duck is out on an adventure to find a treasure of some sort by stealing the Declaration of Independence. The story doesn't matter. The one thing I hated about this game as a kid was the fact that it wasn't linear. You can actually pick where you want to go and eventually unlock new areas, but you may have to revisit some locations after acquiring a certain item to advance further in the stage. This was far too complicated for me as a kid. All I knew how to do was go right. You gotta admire the balls on Donald Duck. Not because he's not wearing pants, but I can't say he was the brightest when it came to assembling his arsenal of firearms. I mean, what kind of idiot uses a plunger as a weapon? But then again, if someone shot me in the face with a plunger, it might stop me in my tracks. You can also shoot popcorn and bubblegum. This is what I miss about the 90s. Video game logic made absolutely no sense and it was fantastic. Anyway, other Disney characters even make appearances such as Goofy and Donald's nephews, Huey, Lewis, and the News. I actually forgot I beat this game for the first time last year. I really should go back and play through it again. I don't really remember much about the later stages. Speaking of DuckTales and Castle of Illusion, those games got HD remakes. Why not this one? Next up, Decap Attack. This is such a quirky game. Matter of fact, this game is kind of the reason I started collecting. Many years ago, my wife bought me the AT Games, or AT Games, whatever you call it, Sega Genesis plug and play for Christmas. I had so much fun revisiting games I hadn't played in years. It wasn't perfect though. I do remember the audio being completely off. Even though Decap Attack was one of the available games, I couldn't play it. Why is that? Well, for some reason the game recognized the jump button as both the jump button and the start button. So every time you jumped, the game would pause. Kinda makes a platformer hard to play. So I got the genius idea to go out and buy a physical copy of the game since you were able to plug in actual cartridges. Well, that didn't fix the issue. Then I made the next most logical decision. I bought an actual Sega Genesis. And things got a bit out of hand after that. Anyway, I have a lot of questions about this game. For one, why do you have a face in your chest? I get it, you're dead, but that doesn't really answer my question. How the hell is he able to float by slowly fluttering his legs? Also, whose skull is this? Is it yours? But that still doesn't explain why there's a face in your chest. Again, 90s video game logic, I love it. The absolute nonsense somehow makes so much more sense than anything else going on in the real world today. Last up, Castle of Illusion. Told you this game might be on the list. But seriously, a game where you play as Mickey Mouse has no right being this good. Anyway, Minnie Mouse has been kidnapped, so Mickey must explore a castle full of deception in order to save her. I don't know why they called it Castle of Illusion. This is another one of those games where I feel there's nothing more to be said that hasn't already been said. Its simplistic gameplay makes a fun and addicting game to pick up and play. The difficulty isn't super challenging, but at the same time not super easy. Matter of fact, I finally beat this game last year for the first time. Not that I struggled with it, I just never really sat down and saw it through to the end. As much as I love this game, there's one thing that I absolutely hate, and that's the sound of Mickey's head hitting a ceiling. I don't know, it just sounds too realistic to me. It actually bothers me. Aside from that though, it's a classic game that stood the test of time. Anyway guys, that was my $100 Sega Genesis challenge. Thanks again for watching guys. You know what to do, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you again next time.